Welcome to the Onkho Workout, a 15-minute tour of the headline features and benefits of Onkho. Let's start by registering an account. You can do this by clicking on any free trial button at our website, www.onkho.com. Enter our details. Don't forget to tick your agreement with the terms and conditions and then click on the register button. Once you've registered, you're straight into Onkho. You're greeted by this pop-up, and the messages you see are quite important. Client notifications are switched off. That means you can safely play around with the platform without any messages going out to any clients that you might add. So let's get started. We won't get far without adding a client, so let's add a limited company. You can import a limited company directly from Companies House by searching by its name or its registration number. We're going to search for our company by name. That's our company, so let's select that one and import it. We're now being given the option to import the directors of the company as well. Let's assume we do their tax returns, so we want to add the directors as clients as well. Notice the pop-up? We alert you to information that can help you use the platform as you explore. Of course, with me as your guide, you don't need that right now, so let's ignore it. We now have the option to edit any of the information that's been imported from Companies House. Let's add an email address to use later on. Now we're happy with what's been imported, so let's press Save. Now that we've added our client, we need to add a service. Before we do that, let's take a look at what was imported. We can see that our company Onkho has been imported, and the connections show that the directors have been imported as well. Now let's add that service. Say the annual accounts for this client. Let's choose annual accounts from the service catalog, which is a list of common services that accountants and bookkeepers provide. They're predefined because the deadlines for most of your services aren't set by you or your client. They're set by government, so it doesn't make sense for you to be defining them. Just one of many ways that we make your life simpler. After that little diatribe, let's save this service. So now you can see that the annual account service has been added to our client. Having added the service, you might be wondering if we now need to schedule the work. Let's check. Nope. There's the first set of accounts we need to do, and it has a due date of 31st of July 2018. Now, how did the due date get set? We weren't asked for the accounting reference date when we added this service. Let's check the setup. As you can see, when we imported the company, the accounting reference date was imported as well. It's set to 31st of October. Now let's go back and check that due date. As you may know, accounts have to be submitted within 9 months of the accounting reference date, which is why the due date is set correctly to 31st of July. Strictly no mental data arithmetic needed here. Now let's have a look at the work that's been set up for our client by switching to the planner. So now we're looking at the planner for our client Onkho Limited. Let's get a 3-month view. And scroll forward in time. Here we see our accounts job showing due in July 2018. Now you'll notice that there are actually two panels on our planner. The panel we were looking at is jobs due. The panel below is jobs planned. So what's the difference? The due date is the date that a job must be completed by. In the case of our annual accounts, that's July 2018, because that's the date by which they must be submitted to Companies House. However, that may not be the date by which we want to actually do the work. Assuming we want to avoid working on the accounts in the month they are actually due, we may want to finish the work earlier, let's say in May. So let's go ahead and plan to do the work in May, giving us enough time to get the papers in and deal with any queries. So how do I do this? Well, it's drag and drop. Yep, the accounts are due by the 31st of July. We want to get them done by the 31st of May. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, there we have it. Now let's have a quick look at our dashboard. We can see that we have 3 clients, 1 limited company and 2 persons. Remember those directors we imported? We can see the newest clients that we added, and there are no jobs due in the current month. That's great, but what if I'm interested in the annual accounts work that I have to do? I'm going to quickly customize my dashboard. Let's unlock it. And I'm going to customize this All Services widget. I'm interested in annual accounts for Companies House. I want to see the work that's due in the next 12 months, and I want to use the plan date instead of the due date. I'm choosing to use the plan date because I care about when we have to complete the work internally rather than the submission date. Now let's give my widget a meaningful name. Okay, so now I can see that I have 1 set of accounts to do over the next 12 months. I haven't done any of them, and I have 1 set of accounts still to do. So that's a regular job that you do. What about those ad hoc requests that you get? Let's imagine that our client called in asking for a copy of their accounts from the previous year. How do we make sure we don't lose this request? After all, it's important to our client. First thing to do is to find the client, and here's where our powerful search comes in. Let's try postcode. What about just the name? You can even search by the name of the person who called in. And from that person, we can see the limited company that they're connected to. Now let's add a request, which is basically a one-off job that we need to do for a client. Let's get the details in. Now what's the significance of adding a request? Well, let's look at our planner again. And scroll back to today. Now look at that. The client's ad hoc request is now appearing in the same place as all of the regular work. Finally, you've got everything you need to do in one place. Of course, you get these kind of requests all the time, and you know that very often they're the most important thing to your client at that point in time. That makes them worth tracking, don't you think? So let's go back to our dashboard. I'm going to add a countdown widget like the one we had for annual accounts to keep track of those requests. Let's customize our dashboard again. Let's get it configured. Now we've saved it. Now the ad hoc requests are important to my client, and so they're important to me as well. I'm going to move this widget over here. And because I think it's really important, I'm also going to change the color. Okay, I'm happy with that. So let's save my dashboard. Okay, so now I can see that I have one set of requests to do over the next 3 months. I haven't done any of them, and I have one request still to do. Now I want to assign this request to my lucky colleague, Andy Hill. So let's get him added to the platform. I'm just going to clear my alerts first. Settings is where I go for everything related to setting up my business. Let's add a new team member. Okay, so my colleague Andy will receive an email with instructions. Once he's done what he needs to do, he should be able to log into Onkho and be ready for me to assign work to. Okay, so now that Andy has joined Onkho, let's assign him some work. Back to the planner. I want to assign this request to Andy to make sure the work gets done on time. Let's get the team up by changing our view. I'm going to change the bottom panel to show assignments or team allocations. That's me, and that's Andy. Now let's welcome Andy to Onkho by giving him his first job. Drag and drop again, and all done. So now we see that the job has Andy's initials on it. Now let's pretend to be Andy and send those accounts. It's going to be a little difficult with client notifications switched off, of course, so let's enable them by going to our settings. That's that done. Now let's get back to the client. As I recall, we were working with a limited company. As you can see, you can even search for a type of client. So we're back in our activity feed. This time, we're going to send a message to our client with the copy accounts. Let's switch on notifications for this client and send them a message. Of course, we should attach the accounts as well. Yep, that message has gone out. Notice we've just sent an email to our client without leaving Onkho. No need to go to an email application. Everything here in one place, including any replies from your client. Here's one now. So we can have a two-way communication with our client without ever leaving Onkho, and all of this is visible to all of the team. Now let's make a note about some useful information that we just picked up. Notes are internal and are never sent to a client. Now I want to make sure that other members of the team pay attention to this note until it doesn't make sense anymore, so I'm going to make it sticky. That means it will stay at the top of the feed whenever anyone comes to look at this client. Now the activity feed is quite interesting because it contains a record of all the things that we have done for this client, and it can be seen by every member of the team. I don't need to depend on my short-term memory anymore. Let's not forget to mark that request as done. So that's our workout done. Let's recap what we saw. We saw the dashboard. It tells us what's going on in our business. We can even customize it to focus on the things that matter to us right now. We saw how to add clients. Notice that our limited company and the directors all appear separately. The old days of finding a client and then finding the contacts are over. Everyone in one place, and you can follow their connections to see how they relate to each other. We also saw how to add services to a client, and how adding a service can automatically create all your jobs for you. We saw how easy it was to do planning, using drag and drop to plan work and team allocations. Hope you enjoyed this workout. If you haven't tried Onkho yet, register at www.onkho.com for a free 30-day trial or get in touch with our customer success team. See you soon.